When Starfox64 came out, I mean, it was a massive success for those who might not know. But, like, how did you guys deal with the sudden fame and people, just constantly bombarding you wherever you went? Because, I mean, that had to be just gnarly to suddenly be in the spotlight.
Me, Peppy, Falco, and Slippy really just considered ourselves, your standard pilots. But we're just cruising along, just doing our missions, and suddenly everyone knew who Star Fox was. I mean, Joe, we were on cereal boxes, magazines, billboards, and we were just everywhere. And honestly, at first, it was a bit surreal for all of us, I think. Suddenly, there's people all over the world who wanted to meet us and, get pictures, autographs, and tell us how Starfox64 made a positive experience for them in their life. So we knew we had more eyes on us. We had to up our game, so to speak, no pun intended. But I think we also felt a sense of responsibility to the fans, to the system. It pushed us to excel and show why we were there in the first place, to protect and serve against Andras and people who may adopt his ideology.
Yeah.
But honestly, Joe, I just feel so grateful to all the Star Fox fans for standing by us all this time, and that myself, Peppy, Falco, and Slippy are so glad that we could be a part of your lives. But I mean, we're talking 1997, so that was about 26 years ago. So something about that game still resonates with people to this day.
We're talking about a time when the industry was just bursting with imagination. It came with new, groundbreaking games, new characters we'd never seen before. I mean, it was just bonkers. But I can still remember seeing all the crazy new titles that the N64 had and just almost being overwhelmed by all the choices. But speaking of other game characters, have you met a lot of those guys?
Oh, yeah. I think I've pretty much met almost everyone. But, I mean, I've met Donkey Kong, Mario, Link, Kirby, Captain Falcon, Mega Man, and even the, what's his name? The Pokemon who sings people to sleep.
Jigglypuff?
Yes, Jigglypuff. But I will say there's a guy who I still haven't met yet, but I've heard so much about him through other characters, a guy by the name of Dash Rendar. I mean, from what I hear about this guy, he sounds so interesting to me. He's got this, reputation as a skilled pilot and a real tough customer in the galaxy. I've always thought it'd be interesting to share stories and maybe even go on a mission together with him. Seems like a cool guy.
Oh, yeah, the guy from Shadows of the Empire, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, he seems like he could really get you out of almost any situation. Plus, I mean, he was pretty jacked from what I remember. So even face-to-face combat, he's probably someone you'd want on your team. But speaking of piloting in battles, I have to ask you about Starwolf.
That's a sore subject for me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean...
You don't have to talk about it if you're not comfortable.
Well, Joe, you have to understand that, for me, that whole situation with Wolf O'Donnell was the biggest betrayal of my life, just the biggest betrayal. On the flip side, I don't think people really know my side of the story, so for the sake of people knowing the truth and putting my own personal feelings on the matter aside, I'll give my recollection.
Okay.
So Wolf O'Donnell and I go way back. Believe it or not, we were actually friends growing up. During our childhood, where we'd spend summers together, we'd spend hours inventing gadgets, dreaming up wild adventures, and pretending to be pilots navigating the cosmos. And our families were friends. We'd have dinners at each other's houses. During the holidays, we'd exchange gifts. I mean, I really considered him a good friend at one point in my life.
Huh.
He was a wonderful friend who I loved spending time with. But our friendship really started to wither when we hit our teenage years. We just weren't that close anymore. And, girls became important and your priorities changed, but I think that's pretty normal in most cases. But Wolf really started pulling away without any clear reason. He just became distant, almost standoffish. It was like he had this wall up and refused to let anyone in. I mean, Joe, we used to share everything, but suddenly he wouldn't talk about what was bothering him, and it was frustrating, confusing, and it hurt to see our friendship just dissolve away. By the time we entered the academy, I mean, he was just a completely different person.
Did you guys ever have a fight or like a disagreement on something?
No, I mean, Wolf and I never fought. We were always on the same page about everything. And that's the craziest part. I would just try to be a friend and just remind him, like, hey, man, I'm always here for you whenever you need me.
You know, it's wild how relationships change. Sometimes friendships that have weathered years of laughs, tears, and close camaraderie can suddenly unravel.
Yeah.
And what's even wilder is that sometimes one person in that friendship doesn't seem to understand the weight of cutting ties. It's the void of all those memories, all those shared experiences, all those conversations that used to fill the air with laughter. It's a sudden void that's really hard to fill. And some folks just don't seem to get it. They move on, they shift gears, but they don't see the shrapnel of emotions scattered in the wake of their departure.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Thank you. But you guys grew up together and had a falling out. Then what happened?
So I enroll in the Cornerian Air Force. I get to basic training. And then I see Wolf O'Donnell is also there. I just looked over and he's giving me this weird side-eye glare and slightly showing his teeth. And in that moment, I knew that my friend Wolf was gone. Something had happened to him internally. I mean, I could see that it was Wolf O'Donnell, but it was like a stranger looking back at me. So one of the things they teach you at the Cornerian Army is hand-to-hand combat. That's basically where it all starts. They want you to really know your way around fighting, which I had previous experience in. During my teenage years, I took wrestling and karate, so I was pretty prepared and had a pretty good idea of what to expect. But, of course, I get paired up with Wolf for our hand-to-hand combat training.
That's brutal.
Well, it could have been. But I wiped the floor with him. He didn't know how to fight.
I love it.
So that happens. And, of course, he was the biggest baby about it. And I really didn't have any issues with him until we started flight training.
Did he try to fight you again?
He would just sit there with his head down by himself, or while training, he wouldn't look at anybody. And this is the part of the story that I can never, ever forgive Wolf for.
What happened?
So Wolf, Bill Gray, and myself are running through formation attack training. We run through all of our aircraft preparation reports, and right before we get to the very first target, Wolf flies directly behind me. Bill and I yell, "Hey, Wolf, what are you doing?" My lock-on alarm starts going off. So I instantly somersault, which is, in layman's terms, basically a full 360-degree loop. And Bill, without even thinking, shoots down Wolf's R-wing.
So he was planning on straight up killing you.
There's no doubt in my mind that had Bill not been there, and had I not done a somersault, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
That's so crazy. So what happened when you guys got back to base?
General Pepper was waiting for me and Bill. I thought for sure that we were about to be arrested or put on trial, but we get out of our ships. And General Pepper tells us he saw the entire thing and said that he knew Wolf had been a very troubled individual from the very beginning. Thankfully, Bill Gray was never charged with anything, and all we had to do was answer some questions from a few other generals, and our names were cleared.
So I'm guessing Wolf O'Donnell was charged with attempted murder.
So he wasn't found with his ship, and he never reported back to base. The next time I'd see Wolf O'Donnell again was when he completely ambushed me with his group that he so graciously named Star Wolf.
That is a very original name.
I know, right?
I mean, he was obviously jealous of you. You guys used to be friends and things shifted somewhere along the way. Maybe he couldn't handle the fact that you were on equal footing and suddenly you're excelling in training, becoming a standout pilot. That jealousy seems like it fueled this need to not just compete, but to surpass and, in a way, become you. But can I be completely honest?
Absolutely.
He sounds super annoying.